Hello, hello. Just come along to do a little craft with me. I'm going to be using my new kit, but you can use any kind of ledger paper and things like that to do something very similar. It's, you don't have to have the kit. It is a stamp related project. Now, I've used, some of these, I've got a few of these and some of them are over 70 years old. Basically, they are, the originals are booklets that were used in stamp clubs for either selling or swapping stamps between members. It's really, really cool, and I've used the covers and the pages, but I have done a lot of editing, lots of editing. But on the whole, the look is, what the originals look like, kind of. There are a few pages. Basically, it's a notebook kit. This is one that I have already put together. I've done some stamping. These are pages from the kit. I will show you the pages on their own shortly. Now, I'll keep this page open. I've done some stamping, made some pockets. All of the stamps I have made. They are all digitally made by myself to cover the stamps that were actually left in the booklets, and I'll explain a little bit more about copyright and regarding stamps in a minute. So I'm going to leave that page open. I've printed, the kit is one large notebook and two small notebooks. Now the small notebooks I have left exactly as they are. I haven't done any, I can't turn the pages. I haven't done any editing in here. Obviously the stamps are edited, but I haven't done any embellishing on these little ones. So one of the covers is almost blank. There's pretty much nothing on that. So I've taken everything off, and you can add your own details. A couple of them I have, this one I've just edited a bit, and this is the main cover. I'll show you the actual kit for the large notebook. I haven't done the small. Let me just get those out of the way. It's a bit early for those. So this cover I have printed onto heavyweight matte photo paper, and on the inside I've used one of the backs for that. All of these stamps I have made so they don't break any copyright law. And on the back I've used the grid on this one. Now this paper is literally ivory copy paper, and you can see it's still pretty good compared to, if I find the equivalent page that's printed onto photo, there it is. So that's printed, the one on the left is printed onto photo quality paper, and that's white, and the one on the right is printed onto ivory copier paper. So you've got lots of options for printing. So these are some of the pages. Now, can you see this little, this is where a stamp from the other side of the page, because they're all one-sided. The pages are all one-sided. So the majority of the image is only on the right-hand side, but I really like that. So I've left it. I haven't doubled up the pages, but you've got all the little blemishes and things that have come through the paper, because a lot of these were actually a kind of onion paper, the originals. So you can see the original prints, but if you could do this digitally, but the originals were just so lovely. So what you would do is, if you'd purchased a stamp, the price of the stamp was above. If you purchased the stamp, or if you'd swapped a stamp, you had to sign, initial it to say that you had, and then you would also sign the cover to say that you had, because the owner of these stamps is obviously going around looking at other people's books. I've also made two pages that look like stamp album pages. So you could very easily just make a notebook full of these. And again, the stamps on here I've created, they're not originals at all. So that's probably enough chatting. I think I covered everything. I will, as I'm sort of going through, I'll talk about stamp copyright. Now, each country has different laws on copyright of stamps, and first glance it looks fairly straightforward and fairly easy. For example, the UK stamps are copyrighted for 50 years. However, it's not as easy as that. If there is an illustration on the stamp, then the same laws apply. You have to wait until 70 years after the death of the illustrator. Same if it's a photograph. If it depicts a famous person, there are other copyright laws that come into play. So you would have to research images relating to that person. And if this stamp has an image of the royal family on, again, more laws apply. So the chances are, a Great British stamp, there are very few that you're going to be able to use, even if they are over 50 years old, because we do like to put our royal family on our stamps. So I'm just going to actually pop these together. Oh, I've done this wrong because I'm talking. Right, hang on. Yeah, basically, it takes a lot of research to find out if you can use a British stamp. What I want to do is I want to have one with the image on the outside and one with the image on the inside, and then I'm going to pop those together. So there's a nice amount of writing space on a double page spread. So that teach me for talking too much. Yeah, so it is a very difficult thing to navigate, and other countries are going to be exactly the same. Now, some stamps, it's classed as they are owned by the state. So some countries have absolutely no copyright at all on their postage stamps. But again, you're still going to have the same issue with regards to the illustrations, with regards to if there is a person depicted on them, etc., etc. So, you know, don't think stamps are just out of copyright because they are over the age that that country specifies, because there are a lot of other factors to consider. So it doesn't make that very easy. So I've just put these together in twos first of all, and I'm going to use one of these, and then I'm going to pop that one inside, because this one has the stamp paper. And then, oh, that's also the stamp paper. I don't want that one next. So I'm going to put this one in next. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you put these together. I'm not taking too much notice because I am chatting. So basically, that's my notebook pages ready to go. Now, before I sew this, I'm going to just decide whether I want some stamps in here. And I mean, I have an absolute ton of stuff all over my desk because I've been working on these. Let me just pull out my drawer. I think the stamp I want is already out. So it's in my mess somewhere. Ah, here it is. So this is one of my Mackie stamps, and if you are interested in any Mackie stamps, I have a link to them on my website. I'm going to put this on one of the plainer pages, and I'm not going to get out my block. These Mackie stamps don't actually stick to it, but I've got them unmounted because they take up a lot less room. However, I have started mounting some of my stamps now, so I might mount this one. You have to kind of do this by hand. That's not very straight, but I do want to add that. Oh, I've missed the little 21. Actually, that's quite cool. And I might put one more. Yeah, I think I'm going to put one down here. I seem to be very unorganised this morning. It's dentist day today, so we're all off to the dentist. There we go. So yeah, please do be careful if you are using stamps in any of your work that are not originals. Obviously, if you are using the originals, you're pretty okay. There we go. Let me just have a quick flick through that. So I have those two. I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm going to, the previous one I made is not very botanically themed at all, but I am going to make this a botanical one because I haven't done anything with botanicals for quite a while. So I'm going to do a little bit of botanical stamping. I think I'm going to do one here, one lucky stamp over there. I've already got this one out. But this is actually quite a quick project if you're doing just want to make a little notebook, or it's sort of like a mini junk journal. That's kind of what I'm turning this into anyway. That's okay. I'll clean these off in a bit. I'm not going to do too much because I'm just going to leave that there to dry for a moment. I'm not going to do too much because I do want, I think I might add one here. Let's do this one. I do want to add a couple of pockets and things like that as well, so I quite like that. I don't want to go over that. I'm going to put it over here. I'm not getting my block out because it's in a drawer that's kind of hidden behind my sewing machine at the minute, so I should have been a bit more prepared, but wasn't. I will clean those off in a bit. So I've got a couple of stamps. I think that's fine. Just going to give that a second to dry. Now I've printed some of the backs onto this. I got this from Amazon and it says it's craft paper. It isn't. It's more like a packaging paper. I don't know if you can see. There are lines going through the paper, so I don't know if you would call that craft paper. It's more like a packing paper, but it looks pretty good with the lines on. So it's just this, the lines. I did make this a little bit darker. I think I'm going to. I'm not quite sure actually. Let's do this one. This is I printed this both sides. Look, I did the back and the front on the same page, but I quite like that, so I'm going to keep that for some collaging. Let me look what I did with the other one. Just to make the front cover a little bit firmer, I've added some paper to the inside cover, and I've also done some collaging on the front. Now I'm going to stamp on here, I think, just to make this a little bit more interesting. I'm just using my Tim Holtz stamp. This comes with the, I'm not sure, but it is linked on my website. I'll pop the link down below. And I'm just going to do a little bit of random stamping on there. I haven't used the archival. This was the distress ink because I want this a bit lighter. I don't want it to be too overpowering. Okay, so we've got our book and our cover. All I did was cut these out and ink round them before I came on. I'm just going to burnish that down. Now, with my sewing machine, this amount of pages just goes through my machine. If you wanted to add more, you might need to sew it in like a signature in a book. But, you know, for me, this works quite well. So I think the next step is I'm probably going to sew this in before I do any more decorating. So I'm just going to line my pages up. Now, you know, like I said, these pages, they're 70 years old and I think they're all hand kind of cut. So they're not perfect, but I like it. I'm just going to add a couple of paper clips. And I'm going to grab my pencil and fold the book. It's nice and tight, and I'm going to run my pencil up that crease line. You're not going to see it because we're going to sew over it, but it does help to be able to see where you're sewing. I don't know if you can see that pencil line, but it's right in the crease here. So I am going to run this through my sewing machine and I'll be right back. Okay, so I now have my stitching up the back. It's pretty perfectly on the crease. It's, you know, you're not always going to get it spot on, but that doesn't really matter. And there is my booklet. So, I mean, that's a nice little notebook. You can tuck it in the back of a journal. You could do all sorts of things with this. Just like these small ones, these, I designed them this small so I could pop them inside pockets in my journals. And there's the same pages smaller for this size notebook. So the pages in the kit are duplicated. I haven't duplicated them twice because this is just to go into a journal pocket. It's only got half the amount of pages in that the large one has. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I am going to do the same again. I'm going to run a piece of my, I can use this one, a piece of my grid paper, which is one of the backings. I'm going to run that up the inside, and I think I'm probably going to stamp it, pop a stamp on there. The good thing about the grid is you can use the lines very easily to cut along. How high do I want it? About that line there. So I'm just going to cut this bit off. And I'm going to tear a piece. I'm going to ink the inside. I'm going to ink along the bottom. My ink is getting pretty dry. I'm going to need to actually I'm going to do a stamp now, I think. I'm going to do this one. I think I might put a bit of... Now on this one I am going to use my archival. I'm just going to put that aside for a second. Just a little bit top and bottom. I mean, I would recommend you use your block if you're using these stamps. These stick to the blocks perfectly. The Tim Holtz Wallflower. There we go. And I'm just going to pop that in there. Actually, I'm going to add some more to this. I have this, I think I got this from... I think this was in Happy Mail. It's super thin. I've got a feeling this came from Wendy and Leo. I'm going to just tear a small amount off. It's super, super thin and cute. And I'm actually going to stick it to my mat. Why not? I'm just going to ink that. And then lift that off. It's probably a little bit long. Maybe not. What I'm going to do is try my best. Actually, I'm going to use my art glitter glue for this because it's super thin. I'm just going to pop that over the bottom of that stamp. Hold it up for the camera. So that's cute. And I'm going to, I mean, these are actually the stamps that I haven't had room to put away anywhere yet. They're not any particular stamps, but, you know, rather than worry about where to use them, that's quite nice. Okay, I'm going to just add the stamp too. Since we've got a stamp theme. hopefully this video won't be too long. Of course you can skip. So that's going to be the inside page. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for this just because I want it to dry nice and quickly. I mean, you can do extra sewing. You could make these as embellished or as plain as you like. I just thought it was a really, really interesting concept, and you know, it's a little bit different, but it's a very nice way to make a base for a lot of other projects, I thought. Okay. There we go. So that's the inside cover. Now I'm going to do something on the outside. What stamp I have here. I like the ones that are on a base. I also want to use one on the inside. Which I think that's probably the best. I think I might have it that way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tear the edge of that. I love it. I love it when they've got the postage marks and they're still on the paper. I just think they're so interesting. Even if, I mean, this is a particularly boring stamp, to be fair, but the fact that it's got the paper and the postmarks on it is actually what I like about it. So I'm just taking a bit more of my, and I'll trim this perfectly once it's all glued down. But for now, I think I need to add a little bit more just to, you know, make this even more interesting. But I just wanted to kind of firm up this front cover a little bit. If you're using it just as a very simple and plain notebook, you probably don't need to do that. I'm going to ink this bit up. I'm having a lot of trouble with my camera, so I'm sorry if I'm not quite as in frame. I'm looking at a picture that's sideways now rather than straight up, which is what I used to have. But I had to get a new phone, and I'm going to use this is, I will show you this again shortly because I'm going to use this to make some of the tag. But this is a Stanley Gibbon stamp catalogue, and it gives you kind of information about the stamps, worldwide stamps. It's for stamp collectors to work out the value and various details about the stamps, kind of brief description, things like that. I know for the UK stamps, they always used to tell you about the phosphor bands on the stamps because obviously they're different. But I'm not sure about the worldwide stamps, whether they're the same or not. Quite like that little cluster together. So let's add it. Really should have done this yesterday, but oh my days, did I have a headache yesterday. We're back to very cool, overcast, the occasional sunny outbreak over here. Well, in Suffolk anyway. Obviously, I'm sure other parts of the country have got better weather than we have. Yeah, I like that. That's what I'm going for. So I'll give this a good glue. I mean, you can use any glue. I had an email from a lovely subscriber this week asking me about glues. I did tell her to go and watch Gayle's video, because Gayle uses pretty much the same glues that I use. If I'm doing anything that I really want stuck down well, I will use Fabri-Tac. It's my favourite glue. It's the glue I love the most. It is a bit pricey, it is a bit smelly, but it does a very good job. But I also love the art glitter glue, and I like to use this if I'm doing something with a very small space, or if I've got a little corner that I need to pop a little bit of glue under. I also have Cosmic Shimmer, which I use in the same way as the art glitter glue, but I do find this one will wrinkle the paper ever so slightly more than the art glitter glue. My glue stick of choice is definitely a Yoo-hoo. And the fabric glue I use, other than Fabri-Tac, if I'm using it, there are certain reasons I would use this fabric glue, which is the high tack, and I really do rate that glue. So as you can see here, I have a little bit of a lift, this bit here. So I'm not going to use Fabri-Tac. This is the kind of situation where I would use my art glitter glue, because I've got a nice small point, and I find it's a lot easier to use on small areas like that. So that's our front cover and inside cover, and I think that's, you know, you could just leave it like that, that's perfectly fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a pocket. I've made a pocket and a tag here. There's a couple of other pockets in here that I haven't put tags in as yet, but we're just I'm gonna make a pocket. That's quite good as well. I might do another piece of that just to decorate when we get into it a little bit more. Now I have a piece, I had a piece that was kind of, so this square, all of the pockets are different sizes. I've just cut a piece of the backing paper, and all I'm going to do is use one of the lines, and I'm going to fold along it, and then I'm going to do the same the other side, depending on how wide I want my pocket, and then I'm going to do the same at the bottom. Really simple, straightforward pocket, and it's only paper because, you know, this is a notebook. It's not a fully fledged journal. And then I'm just going to mite at the corners. I'm going to take a little bit off that side because that's a little bit wide. So as you can see, straight away, there's our pocket. Very simple, straightforward. So what I'm going to do is, I have these tags that I purchased in Error. So I'm going to grab one of those. I have some floral stickers. I'm going to go for the pink one, I think, for this. Okay. Now I want to cut a little piece out, but this paper is too thin to use my punch, so I'm just got some, you can see this is where I used for the last one. I'm just going to line that up. It just allows me to use my punch, and I'm doing it by eye, punching a little bit out of there. Let's ink this up. Try and keep this as quick as I can. Now this is a vellum sticker, so I'm going to ink this up as well, try and get rid of some of that white. And the hardest thing is getting the back off. very good job of that. There we go, get those wrinkles out. Now, this tiny little white tag, I'm gonna ink around it, just ink the inside too. And what I do is just take my blending tool and just pull that thread through. You could obviously cut this off or make it a lot shorter if you prefer. I'm going to find a stamp. I have got my other stamp books to hand if there isn't anything kind of suitable in here. Do I want blue? What's that? I'm always very careful. Well, I try to be very careful when I use stamps because you never know what's on them and who's on them. Another. I want something pretty. I'm going to keep that out because that's going to. Oh, there's another nice one there that I can use in a bit. And another one. It's always difficult, isn't it? Seem to have a lot of nice. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So I'm just going to stick my little stamp, and these little tags are perfect kind of size to pop a small stamp on. Oops. Oops. Okay, so I've got my blue stamp with the pink rose, and I'm going to grab a label. So I have these labels also in my shop. And it's just a case of having a play around. And seeing what you can do, seeing what you like. I actually like that because I don't really want to cover that butterfly up, but it's nice to get a bit of a different colour in there. I'm just going to keep those aside because they'll make perfect decoration for inside the notebook. Try and remember how I had this together, how I wanted this to go. Bit of a gluey finger. Go over in that corner so I'm not covering up the butterfly. Okay. Don't know how long have I been. Oh, I've already been over half an hour. This is going to be quite a long one. Right, so this is going to go in here. What I want to do though is just include those other stamps. So I think I'm going to add one to the actual stamp page. And then we've got the butterfly stamp there, so I think this is going to be perfect. Love this. Just to add a little bit more interest and decoration. I mean, you could just as easily make a mini stamp album if you printed out lots of these pages. And let's go on the other side. I think I'm going to go onto here. I'm going to add the butterfly. I'm going to go up the top here for that. And then I'm going to add the little blue tip down in the bottom corner on the other page. So it's kind of using it, obviously, if you were collecting. And I do have stamp collections, but these are not my collection. You wouldn't necessarily glue your stamps in. I quite like it. So I've just got a few little bits of interest in here and there. So now I want to decide where I'm going to put my first pocket. And I think I want the string hanging over that side. Just make sure I'm in frame. I really am struggling since I got this new camera. The software that I use hasn't been updated for my new camera, my new phone yet, so it's on the side and it's super small. It's really difficult for me to see, but at the moment that's how it is. I can't do anything about it. And again, cool, you've got the lines, nice and easy to line that up. So that's our first pocket. This is a pocket I made earlier. I'll just show you that one close up. So I'm going to go to the other side of the notebook, find a page. I think that one's perfect. More lines, and I'm going to add the pocket there. You could equally decorate the smaller notebooks. I have left them for now. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do anything to them or not, because they're to go in some journal pockets. Oh, I don't know. Let's have a look. What have I got anywhere else? Is there anything? No, I think I'm happy with that. So this is one of the tags I have made, and I'm going to just pop that in there. So let's just quickly put together a little tag for this pocket. I'll just pull that one out because I'm going to use a similar kind of process. Okay, so I'm using quite a thin, it's actually a thick paper stock rather than a thin cardstock. Either way, it's not very hefty, because I don't want to make this too thick. Now I have, this is the Stanley Gibbons book that I was talking about. It's from 1969. It's this postage stamp catalogue. Just get this out of the way. So I'm just going to literally find a page. I'm quite happy with one with a lot of text on, because we're going to cover a lot of that up. So France. Let's have a look. Something where there's a lot of text down this side, I think, is what I'm looking for. Oh, that's quite good. Oh, I've got some pages already out here. Look, that's perfect. Lovely. Let's go for that one. Now, I'm just going to cut roughly up that line there. I like all of the numbers. I'm going to cut these plainer edges off. I'm only doing this roughly because I will trim it once it's glued into place. Okay, I'm not going to do any inking at the minute, because all of this, the outside I can ink at the end, and the inside is going to be covered up. So I'm just going to add my glue. Wow, this is going to be a long video. I do apologise. I thought this was going to be really quick. I can't pick it up. Okay, let's just pop that into place. Just going to trim off all of these. I'll keep going off camera. I don't know why, because it's not even comfortable for me to sit leaning over to my right, but I seem to keep doing that. I think it's because I'm leaning towards the image on my screen of what we're doing, which makes no sense really, does it? But that's what I keep doing. Okay, so that's that, and we've got to just tear that. Got a bit of our lined paper. I'm going to just straighten the edge off there. I'll probably overlap that a bit. Roughly trim. I'm gonna just work out. Yeah, I'm gonna take 2 squares off this side, and this one I can cut straight because it's going to go against the straight edge of my tag. Oh, that's not very torn, is it? That's not a torn edge at all, but can I? That's a very, no, I'm going to have to tear that. That's too straight for me. That's fine. That's good. Okay. Let's just see. Just going to take a little bit off that corner so I'm not using too much glue for nothing. This is where I'm going to start making mistakes because I'm trying to rush now because I feel like the video is going to be too long, and some of you chaps don't want to be watching too long videos. I mean, you can use any book pages for this. It doesn't have to be a stamp book. Anything with text would look fine, I think. Okay, I would like another stamp on here. Just going to grab one. Another floral. And I'm going to go a little bit closer to the top on this one. I'm going to add some stamps. Ooh, got a bit of a double impression there. That'll teach me for not getting out my oh, what's it? Okay, I'm gonna go for a larger label. I think I want something neutral. Oh, should we go something a bit more green? I can see some green stamps. Yeah, let's go for that. I'm just going to ink this. I'm actually going to just dab a little bit, that bit of colour. Okay. These are not all floral stamps, but that's fine. Just going to do a bit of layering. Not sure if they're a bit big. Let's see what else we have. Oh, Boy Scouts. That doesn't look like the kind of stamp I want to use. What's this? Fish. Not sure about fish. Oh, see, that's quite a pretty stamp. I do have this several times, but I actually see if I can peel that off. I would normally soak it off, but I really like this. So I want to use that. That's obviously the inside of a vintage envelope. Yep, like that set up. I think we'll go for that, and then we'll work out the stamps after to see what happens. some of the inside of the vintage envelopes are actually really pretty. So most of them are blue now, aren't they? But back in the day, they used to be different colours. Much, much nicer. I've not seen any different colours now anyway. Maybe they are about, but I've only seen blue. Okay. Right, so that's actually a good start. Quite like that as a tag as it is. But I do want to add a little something else, and I'm not sure if I actually want, on the others I've got 3 stamps, but I think on this one I just want the one. Yeah, I'm going to go for just the one. Still pulling in that green. Right, I'm just going to run a straight stitch around this and I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. So last touch is just to ink this up. And that's our tag. So I'm gonna pop that one in there. And oh, I really like that green actually. Pop this one in here. So that's our little notebook finished. I'll just do a little flip through. Obviously I haven't done anything to these pages, but you could do certainly lots on here. You could actually, I'm not going to add a stamp to this page because these look too vintage, but you could actually add stamps to that. Or any of these lined papers, square grid, plenty of journaling room, writing lists, anything like that. You could still add more things onto here, more stamps. There you go, that's our little project finished. So I hope you like it. I hope you like the kit. If you've got any questions, of course, you can come and ask me anytime. I'm always available. Well, if I'm at my computer, I will answer immediately. Let me just quickly do a little flip through of the other one just to show you. Done a little bit more different collaging on this particular one. Used one of these, just some page embellishments. Still got a few tags and things to add to this one. Use some of the lined grid paper at the side. Again, that's a nice big envelope that had come from Canada. So there you go. And then of course you can make your tiny little ones to go in your journals. Hope you liked it. I will be back very soon with more of something. I will see you soon.